Hey, crew. So last week I missed our composer story, so I wanted to get back to that. So today we're going to read about Robert Schumann. I don't know anything about him, but I like that his story is called "The Story of the Boy Who Made Pictures in Music." There's a picture. Robert Schumann. Story of the Boy Who Made Pictures in Music. When Robert Schumann was a boy, he used to amuse his friends by playing their pictures on the piano. He could make the music imitate the person. One day he said to them, "This is the way the farmer walks when he comes home singing from his work." So I'm going to play the whole song for you. It's like 30 seconds long. Okay, I hope you liked that. And could you hear the farmer coming home from his day of work? Someday you will be able to play a lot of pieces by Schumann that picture the pleasant things so clearly that you can see them very plainly indeed. In one of his books, there is a music picture of a boy riding a rocking horse, another of a little girl falling asleep, a march for little soldiers, that is make believes. And then there are Sitting by the Fireside, What They Sing in Church, and a piece with the first four notes of which spell the name of a composer who was a good friend of Schumann's. This composer came from Denmark. So the first four notes must be G-A-D-E, since he's Niels Gade. This is a picture of the house in Zwickau, Germany, where Robert Schumann was born. Schumann was a strong, healthy youth who had many friends and loved life. What do you think the father and mother of Robert Schumann wanted him to be when he was grown up? A lawyer. Robert was the youngest of five children, full of fun and up to all kinds of games. He went to school and became especially fond of reading plays. He also loved to write little plays and to act them out on the stage that his father had built for him in his room, so he and his companions could give their plays in their own theater. All the while, Robert was taking piano lessons. Just before he entered the high school, he heard a pianist who played so beautifully that he made up his mind that he would become a musician. The pianist whose playing gave him this thought is one whose name you will know better and better as you get older. Ignace Moscheles. There was lots of music making in the Schumann home, for Robert and all his companions played and sang, and besides that, he composed music for them. It must have been a pleasant picture to see all these German boys coming together to make music. If we could gather together some American boys who were alive at that same time, here are some we could have found. Nathaniel Hawthorne, who wrote for children Tanglewood Tales and The Wonder Book. I love Nathaniel Hawthorne. I might have to find some of his stuff to read for us. Then there was Longfellow, who was born in Portland, Maine. How many of his poems do you know besides Hiawatha? And then we must not forget Whittier, who wrote many lovely poems. One was about a little girl who spelled the word that her companion missed in school, and so she went above him in the class. Here's Whittier. And still there was another little boy, only a year older than Robert Schumann. He was born in a cabin. What do you think it is? Okay, there's a hint at the bottom, so see if you can figure it out. This boy's name, as you can guess, was Abraham Lincoln. So when you think of Robert Schuman, let us also think of Hawthorne, Longfellow, Whittier, and Lincoln. They were all doing their best, even as boys, to be useful. Well, after all, Robert Schumann did not become a lawyer. He studied music very hard. His teacher was Frederick Weick. His teacher's daughter, Clara Weick, played the piano very beautifully. Here's Clara. Papa Weick, as he was called, was not very kind to Robert Schumann when the young man confessed that he and Clara loved one another and wished to marry. Papa Weick looks a little grumpy. But after a while, it all turned out happily and they were married. So Clara Weick became Clara Schumann. Here is a picture of them seated together. In the 16 years that Robert Schumann lived after he and Clara Weick were married, he composed lots of music for the piano, besides songs, symphonies, and other kinds of compositions. He was a teacher in the Leipzig Conservatory. Among his friends were Mendelssohn, Chopin, Brahms, and many others. Schumann is best known as a composer of music, although he was also a teacher, a conductor, and a writer upon musical subjects. For many years, he was the head of a musical newspaper, which is remembered to this day because of the great work he did in helping people to understand new music and find out new composers. When he was a very young man, Schumann wanted to become a pianist, but he unfortunately used a machine that he thought was going to help him play better. It hurt his hand so that he was never able to play well again. Poor Schumann went out of his mind in his last years and died insane July 29th, 1856. Clara Schumann. Clara Schumann lived 40 years after Robert Schumann died. She was the teacher of many students, some of whom traveled from America to study with her. She, too, was a composer and a concert pianist who played in public from the time she was 10 years of age. Here are some facts about Robert Schumann. Robert Schumann was born at Zwickau in Saxony, Germany on June 8, 1810. When Schumann was 9 years old, he heard the great pianist Ignaz Moscheles play and resolved to become a great pianist. When Schumann was a youth, he showed a gift for writing poetry. Schumann's father was a successful bookseller. All through his life, Schumann was a great lover of the writings of the German author Jean Paul, whose full name was Jean Paul Richter. Much of his music shows his regard for that writer of fairy stories. Schumann was 21 years old when he injured his hands and learned that therefore he could not hope to be a pianist. It was then that he made up his mind to be a composer. Schumann had enough means to live in comfort. He was not poor, as were Mozart, Schubert, and some others. Robert and Clara Schumann had 8 children, and some of Schumann's best music was written to interest his children. Schumann died July 29th, 1856. So I hope you liked that story, and I hope you like the music and that you're curious to look up more. Um, but thanks for listening. Bye.